What should I know to live happy life? No should. There is no should. That's the thing that's keeping you from living a happy life. Same. You don't. What do I need to know to live happy life? I mean, that's a very quick jump, if you say, okay, then what do I need? If you don't hear that, it's the should. So you can't tell me that in a few seconds you've already looked at that, and understood what that means. The should, uh, the obligation is basically like a obedience mentality, you know? So then it's a case of finding out what's the obedience to. And the knowing that you're talking about is related to the mind. So it's before your question is asked, there's an assumption that knowledge will somehow make me happy. So it says that the mind is the thing that is the key to the happiness. So yeah, that's never going to end well. That's just going to exhaust the mind. There's no way to answer the question, basically, because there's an assumption under it, which if it stays untouched, then nothing else will make any sense. And the assumption under it is that the mind has to have a grip on some kind of handle, some kind of knowledge. Yeah. Um, Knowledge is for taxi drivers, It's for knowing where the roads are. It's for knowing what time the shop opens so you don't get there and it's closed, That's what knowledge is for. So it's for material things, practical things, everyday things, but those don't relate to happiness. Well, that's the thing. I don't know how to do it. I mean, I can question the assumption and do not believe to be true and won't believe it to be true. But then what? Um, yeah, first you have to see what the assumption really is. It has to be so clear what the assumption is that you will just reject it automatically. And then the question, then what, won't come up. It'll be a big relief. Like if imagine you're walking around with a big backpack, you're going on a hike and you've got a backpack that's way too heavy. Suddenly you realize you don't need it. And then you take it off. And then what do you feel? You feel light, you feel relieved, you feel happy. Then the question, now what, wouldn't come up. You can question the assumption, but if you really do question the assumption, because that's an if, the willingness to really see it, because this question of what should I know, what should I do, what do I need, it has to be, you have to kind of reach the root of it, because otherwise you'll always go back to it. And then one day when a big maybe a big glimpse comes, or some what people call spiritual awakening or something like that, then that assumption will still be there, and then there will be the assumption, oh, now I'm enlightened. It's this mental construct. It's basically the belief in the supremacy of the mind, which underpins our culture, or the whole of humanity, really. 99% of it, let's say, because there are still communities that live without this pride. Yeah, with the seeing that humans are not the center of everything. So the assumption that the mind is supreme comes from the belief that humans are the special creatures, because we have a mind, because we have intelligence, quote unquote, because we have thinking. We are the most evolved creatures. The whole thing about theory of evolution, all this conceptualization, which places humans at the center and at the top. Yeah, this hubris, this big pride. You see that wherever colonization has happened, for example, the colonizing and the some indigenous populations that don't have that pride. It's only that pride which will justify those kind of encroachments. So that whole worldview that humans are at the center, that is the assumption that needs to be questioned. And our own belief in it, conscious or not, there's a lot of stuff we just swallow, we just believe because we just never questioned it. Someone said it, so it's just seeped into our subconscious, and then we just act it out, but we never question it. So when you say that, I can question the assumption, but and not believe it to be true, but then what? Just see if you really went to the root of it, Because if you've gone to the root of it, then you will see that the only thing standing in your way for anything is your own pride. Because the pride about the human place in things, this worldview, this cosmology, how things are, that is assumed to be true, it is the justification for all other ego aspects. So all arrogance comes from it, all pride comes from it, all insensitivity comes from it. Even if I'm proud about how big my muscles are, the pride comes from the same thing. It's not some different root. So questioning an assumption or going deep enough, it's easily said. The root of everything, the root of all ego, which is claiming really the energy that is free and expressing itself, let's say moving around freely, completely freely. The claiming of that is the human assumption that we are at the top, everything is here to serve us. So then we take this position, and we take a position, and everything else are things that serve us. And then no wonder there is a sense of separation, because now we've wanted it that way, in a sense. We've created it that way. It's not just some random happening, or intrinsic in the nature of things, that there is dissatisfaction and stuff like that. The discontent is just this, basically elevating ourselves and then looking down on everything else, and then we wonder why there is a sense of separation. What communities do you mean living nowadays? I mean some indigenous communities that live according to live according to their natural environment. I don't know exactly which ones, but it stands to reason that the certain communities that don't have much contact with the modern world, live in this kind of harmony. They don't have they have a very clear they have a very clear awareness that to live with this kind of separation from nature is naive. So they're free. So modern technology, etc., is bad in a sense because it makes people more separate from nature. No, not at all. No, that's just jumping to a conclusion. At present, the way things are at present is that the technological advances that have been made are coupled to a sense of pride. Yeah, there is not a recognition that the intuition that leads to technological innovation and technological advances is not something that we fabricate ourselves. Yeah, that there is no common recognition in science, for sure, that, and in most other aspects of life, if not all, for the most part in the world, that intuition is not something we come up with ourselves. Yeah, that it's intuition that brings innovation. Yeah, someone like Einstein knew it. A lot of well-known scientists will have known it, that they're just sort of expressing in formulas or whatever theories that they're developing, that they're expressing something that they themselves received or were receptive to. Yeah, penicillin, for example. Yeah, which is so antibiotics. The fact that we have antibiotics today, penicillin was an accident in a lab. Yeah, it's not, and then we give ourselves prizes for this kind of thing. Yeah, Nobel Prize and this. That's the claiming. So it's not the technology that's the problem at all. It's the claiming attached to it. It's the justification of the intelligence that has permitted technological advances being superior to all other forms of life. That's the issue. So whatever communities don't want to stay away from that, it's not because they want to stay away from technology. They want to stay away from that claiming because it's so prideful. They can feel it. Anyone can sense it. If you have a minimum of sensitivity, you can sense it. And if they are free, then sure as hell, why would they want to let that kind of energy into their space, basically? It's only the claiming from the other side that would say, huh, these primitive people, they, they don't know what they're missing. Yeah, well, it's really just a game ultimately of seeking attention. It- to live a life without any claiming, it's very possible. Like it's not like some stroke of luck that someone gets or something, you know. It's the call every day in every second, it's in everything calling it out. Um and what someone else does is not of anyone else's concern, so it's not any of my concern. um it's not like it doesn't really matter, actually. Like, if someone I will I won't have a conversation with someone if there's so much claiming going on there. It's something you can feel. But if there's sensitivity there, if there's openness there, then it doesn't really matter. Um, we can live a full life even if there's still some claiming there, because it's like then maybe it's some kind of innocent, how do you say, legacy from conditioning, from the way we grew up, which we're just not aware of, maybe. you know but there is no place or country or anything like that where there's more, where there's less claiming, or more people who don't live with claiming. That doesn't exist. So it's not like India, which is always seen to be so spiritual, or it's not like there's more people there who don't live with claiming. Those are just inventions. Okay, there can be like national pride can be a thing. Yeah, if there's some countries maybe where there's more national pride than others. So maybe in that case you could say that the people are more relaxed in some countries. I don't know. If someone believes that he is not free, then a statement like there is only freedom is puzzling. Yeah, sure. Yeah, that's what the belief in not being free, or that there is even such a thing or a possibility. Uh, yeah, sure, it'll be puzzling. But see the logic, it's so simple. See, it's so simple. See the logic of it. What is there? Ultimately, what is there? Ultimately, we can't say what it is. So let's call it something neutral. Energy. Yeah? Energy. So think about the word energy. Like what does it bring up? How does it feel? Or like, if you, I don't know, if you say energy, you close your eyes, and what is that? Take away the word. What is that? Or even the word itself, energy. Would you say energy is not free? Does it have some kind of master somewhere, or some kind of controlling factor, or like, literally, that's how simple it is. The word energy, what does it mean? You can't really define it or describe it. The words aren't the thing, so you can't. Yeah, you know what I mean. And then what? That's not free. And that's all there is energy. Even scientists will admit that. Yeah. Ultimately, even matter, what we call matter, is energy. It's dense, it's condensed, but it's not a different substance to everything else. There is only that one substance that takes so many forms. So how would that not be free? So you could say, instead of there is only freedom, you could say there is only energy. You can't argue with that. For me, there is no problem in that logic. All is energy, but my mind wants more. Asks, okay, then what? Yeah, don't know what to say about that. Then nothing. Then, then you just live your life. That's it. I guess there is nothing more that could be said in words. Yeah, there's always plenty that can be said, but um, yeah, the it's. Hmm. Yeah, I don't know what to say about it, but yeah, if you want to address any other point about it, then maybe we can say some more about it. But what you said about getting to the root, I will try. It's really just about, there's no effort involved, it's really just about the curiosity. It's like if we are, uh, there has to be a certain openness. So there's a difference between wanting to get rid of discomfort and a kind of a real open receptivity. It's different because the one is just like, oh, I just want to get rid of something annoying. And the other is a real sort of, I don't know, like an attention to what's there anyway, which is a natural desire to be free of anything that's fake, anything that's false, anything that's pretentious, anything that's prideful or arrogant, or you know, it's natural that even the most sort of egotistical person isn't actually enjoying living their life in that way, but they're ignoring the discomfort that it creates by seeking more and more diversion, more and more ways to not have those feelings come up, or you know so it's really just a receptivity to what's really going on. And I don't mean going on in the world or going on like there's some mysterious, thing in the ether that we need to catch and then we'll be aware and all this nonsense. By going on, I mean just, you know, in the day to day, like how do you what how much do you respect your own intuition? Uh how much will you listen to a feeling that says I don't want to go along with what everybody else is saying I should do, or everybody's doing this, and everybody is saying I'm part of that group, so I should also do it, and I'm going to do it just because, okay, then I'll just give in, even though it doesn't feel quite right. So if we overlook those kind of things, that's a daily thing, and then we don't ever get to the root, because it creates more and more. It's like we feel more and more a sense of embarrassment, and then the more that gets, the more the pride has to be steep to compensate for it. So getting to the root is really, I don't know, like not listening to anyone else, really finding out for oneself. I want to say that, but that'll probably be misconstrued, because it's not about some conducting some inquiry or something like that. It's all natural. They're all natural things. The desire to be free of any claiming is natural. The desire to listen within, if we can say it that way, is natural. It's all the default position. So it's just a return to that, um, and a willingness to see what's really there, which is stuff that comes up. And if there's some sense of embarrassment because we've been walking around with the idea that we're the greatest in the world, and that comes up, it's just a way of saying, yeah, but there are so many little ideas that are presumptuous and pretentious, and when they come up, it's always a chance to they always come up to so that we can see, wow, I'm not okay with that at all, actually. But what generally happens is that it comes up, and then there's like, oh my god, and then there's sense of shame and guilt, and uh, get rid of the discomfort quick, and then it just gets put away again. And the mistake there is that we always think it's us, whereas all these things that come up, they actually come up through conditioning. So when you say that my mind wants more, that's not actually you. It's the whole field around you that says what is, which is uh, which the only way that we are in touch with it is through our senses and our feelings. Yeah, our gut feeling, our senses, our intuition. Think about it. The world, the collective view ridicules all that. All that is not important. It's unessential. It's insignificant. That's the word. Yeah. So in one swoop, everything that is actually essential is declared insignificant. Okay, so now we're cut off from uh, the source, let's say, of our nourishment, right? And then, of course, nothing is ever enough. Then there's always a striving for more. But the mistake is that we think that those thoughts are ours. So we've been taught over and over again from a young age, from the beginning, we've been taught that what is here is not enough. And what we need to do is we need to apply ourselves to become something, to become better, to become successful, whatever, something, anything. But it's about becoming something in the future, not about what's here. So we are informed by all these things, and we take them to be ours because we join in. We don't want to feel from a young age, we don't want to feel out of place. We don't want to feel disapproved of. We don't want to be looked down on and all this. So we join in the effort, and we're like, okay, I'll show you how good I am at becoming someone. Yeah. And then ambition kicks in, and that's the claiming, that's the striving, and the yeah. So this effort to join in, it's not a natural thing. So now we're on a kind of a parallel track, but all that is not actually us, because it's not a natural thing. And what we are uh you know we are nature. Nature is us, like just like a tree or a dog or a bear. Yeah. So yeah, the getting to the root of it is really, it's like going back to that where the track deviated, kind of. um yeah, it's like there's a I don't know, like an access door, you could say, inside. Like, then there's no longer a listening outward to others, what others say, or what the consensus is, how things should go, or, all the different diagnoses about life and what's good to eat and what's not good to eat, and how to get from here to there, how to get money, how to get health, how to get all these different things. But we never once just listen to ourselves. And even if every other human in the world would say it's like this, do we have the courage to if we feel no, it's like that, to stay with that? That would be getting to the root, like to listen again, to be able to be receptive and notice what's really going on, and how people relate, and uh, how we are kind of behooved, like it behooves us to play along, how we're kind of expected and cajoled and encouraged and seduced into tagging along, you know so, like, who are you to think differently? Who are you to uh say that you're happy just the way you are? Like, it doesn't get accepted, because then all those all that pressure that's telling you this is the process would have to reconsider, and that's not going to happen. Not usually, the way we can see in the world, things don't there isn't some return to humility unless there is some kind of shock, like on a global level. Hi, Denise. Is it rebellion? No, no, not really. No, because rebellion would be like, rebellion is based on the good and bad system. It's like the rebel needs the system to make sense, right? There has to be something to rebel against. So there's that opposition. You know what I mean? Like, okay, it's a different thing. Like, for example, in Germany, when the wall came down in 89, people went on the street and just, this is have had enough, and started to chop down the wall. If you want to call that rebellion, okay, that's like a natural thing. That's like people just having enough, right? But really, rebellion or revolution, or all these things connected with some kind of um, forced. Yeah, usually it's just a self-image people have of being rebels and being rebellious. That's really the difference. Like, we can't say if someone takes up some kind of struggle, right? Even armed struggle, that's one thing. But the because you in a way that would be natural. Like if there's an invasion going on, if there's if there's a possibility, then taking on uh, trying to defend oneself would be a natural thing. But the pride about it, the pride about the rebellion, oh, now I'm so rebellious, yeah, or I'm a revolutionary, or that's the claiming. That's the only issue. But it's also, yeah, because it's not like nature doesn't work in opposites. So it's not a it's more like a if you say this this conditioning energy, let's say, it's based on false ideas. So it's just a collection of ideas, and you can't rebel against ideas. How would you do that? By promoting other ideas, the ideas of what's good, and so on and so on. It's really just, in a way, it's a starving that of its energy source, and that happens within. If I no longer give my assent to those beliefs, then they are weakened by that much. Yeah. That's all. That's our only sphere of influence. It's kind of like not being plugged into the mainframe. Yeah, it's a bit like living off grid, but that doesn't mean that living off grid is the good thing. You know what I mean? Yeah. Someone who lives, that's a good example, actually. Someone who wants to live off grid because I don't know, because they like living in a natural environment, using solar energy, wind energy. They have a source of natural spring water on whatever land they're on, and they just love the idea of living like that. That's one thing. But going to live off grid because I'm so environmentally conscious and I'm actually one of the good people, one of the few good people who does their best, and is kind of going to, now I'm going to be an example of blah 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 blah. That's all full of pride. That does much more damage, quote unquote, collectively, than someone who doesn't recycle, who drives a big SUV that consumes loads of fuel, and keeps flying everywhere when they don't need to. If that's done with some kind of innocence because they don't know any better, then that actually creates a lot less damage than that pride. That's the thing. That's really the thing. And that's that way because because things aren't material by nature. Like, there is only energy, right? Energy, if it's compressed enough, that's when we see what we call matter. Yeah. So you could say that there is the way energy takes forms, it's completely free to take whatever form it wants. And how that happens is really by compression. Compressed energy, if it's dense enough, if it's compressed enough, we see the appearance of forms. But it's still the same thing. It's not something became something else. So yeah, because at the root, or because energy is really formless itself, kind of, um, the solutions can never be in some outward practice. Yeah. Like going off grid, or meditating, or going to retreats, or there can never be a solution sought in the outside world, because It's almost like that search for the solution actually creates the so-called problem, which was never there in the first place. And why does that search for a solution even happen, like a priori, without there actually being a problem? Some kind of search seems to happen for a solution. And that happens because there are mistaken assumptions, the basis of which is the human-centered view of the world. That's there, and then, okay, some problems come up with it, and then what do? We try and layer solutions on top of it. We'll find a new solution, we'll solve it, we'll really apply ourselves and really be disciplined and dedicated to solve it. And all we're doing is adding more and more layers to it, on top of it, instead of just taking away that root idea, and that's it.